Welcome to South the King's Landing, Explosion Network's House of the Dragon, after show where we discuss and break down each and every episode of the House of the Dragon, Season 1. My name is Dylan Black. Joining me, Ashley Hobley, the Hand of the King.
Hey, Dylan. Excited to be here to talk about opening credits.
Yes, I mean, yeah. Let's just get straight into it. Obviously, last week we discussed no credits, first episode, cool. Coming into this week, it was like we should get an opening credits. How will we feel about it? We heard the talk that they was going to use the classic Game of Thrones theme song. Will it work without the full Westerosi map? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it was fine. Obviously, it's a bit different. Obviously, they're going this River of Blood thing. It was a bit weird because I was trying to work out what it all meant and what the relevance of it was. Obviously, there's a little bit of symbolism. I believe one of the teasers they had molten lava or something, go through some wood to make out the symbol for House of the Dragon. That was one of the promotional things that they did when they were first announcing the show. So it feels a little like that. But yeah, it's interesting imagery that doesn't necessarily work in the same way that the opening to Game of Thrones did, where it was helping with the story. This is very much just your average, normal, I assume, opening credits to a thing. This isn't going to change from week to week or season to season, I don't think. Well, it might change a little bit from season to season, but yeah. What about you? What do you think?
I mean, it's still the same song, so I was still just so it still has that going for it.
It's been interesting. Apparently, some people are upset that they are using the same music. To which I say, they use the same music for every single Star Wars movie.
I have no problem with them using the same music. I don't feel like it's...
No, it's a great theme. Why would you? Why not? Why not have a consistent thing running through all these shows?
They're it's not the Game of Thrones theme. It's the Song of Ice and Fire theme.
Yeah, it is the literal Song of Ice and Fire.
Yeah.
Let's go with that.
There you go. Yeah, I liked it. I mean, it's literally just the streets running red with blood, I guess, symbolizing the that people are going to die. Lots of people are going to die. There's a war coming eventually. All these, I don't know. It's the sort of stuff I go there. Overall thoughts on this week's episode, Cold, The Rogue Prince, directed by Greg Yaitanes.
Wait, so just a little bit more on the opening credits. Apparently, it's the stone. It's meant to be a replica of Valeria, which is the stone city that Viserys, the king, is building throughout the series. Mm-hmm. All the symbols are meant to be different Targaryens throughout history, and then the blood is obviously meant to be a massive family tree. Is what I read from someone else's interpretation of it. So, yeah, gotcha. Lots of different smaller imagery and things will be maybe make more sense down the road, or makes more sense to people who have read the book. But yeah.
The Rogue Prince, directed by Greg Yaitanes, written by Ryan J. Condal. Synopsis for this week's episode was: Rhaenyra oversteps at the small council. Viserys is urged to secure the succession through marriage. Daemon announces his intentions. What did you think of this week's episode?
Yeah, it was really good. Very uncomfortable. Lots of child bride talk, and I don't think we've had much of that. I can't remember that being a big thing in Game of Thrones, even though historically it's a thing.
Well, so that's always been the interesting thing. They aged up Dany and everything for the TV show, and now with this one, they are sort of more happily playing in or doing it as it's obviously.
I don't know. They might have been even younger in the show. You know what I mean? The Alicent and Rhaenyra.
There's no way, I can't remember her name, but the ship dude's daughter.
No.
There's no way, because I looked on Reddit.
I would hope to God that she wasn't even younger.
Yeah, I looked on Reddit real quickly, and some dude's like, my God, when they went down, him walking through the park, I knew she'd be young, but I wasn't expecting watching Thomas the fucking Tank Engine young. Yeah. So I don't know. It's always been a thing. They talk about this stuff in the show, but I guess it's been that whole show don't tell, or I don't know. There's lots of uncomfortableness to Game of Thrones when it comes to like how, I don't know, like this sort of stuff, whatever you want to call this sort of stuff, like stuff that just isn't legal. I don't know, like what you,
well,
you know,
is very frowned upon in modern
society.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah.
And then the one, of course, at the end of the episode when he announces he's actually going to marry what's-her-face, Allison. I don't know how old she's supposed to be. I assume the same age as Rhaenyra, so maybe like 15, 16.
Yeah, I believe there was 16 in real life, so...
I think the way they'll get around it being not so as uncomfortable, I guess, for most people is if we just skipped ahead 6 months in this episode between the last, which is another thing to note, if we just skip ahead very quickly, we're just going to skip ahead and they're like, oh, she's 18 now, it's fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're like, let's just skip past the uncomfortable years for viewers and get to her being 18 or whatever. You know?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Olivia Cook could pull off 18, maybe.
Yeah, well, it makes me wonder, like, what year they suddenly switched to the...
Yeah, how many episodes are we going to have with these actresses left?
Younger cast, yeah. I'd still say at least half the show, maybe. I don't know. Well, what do you think? What do you think of the 6? I thought that. I thought the episode was very good. Obviously, I probably liked it more than the first one. I would say overall, things are it's just a bit more.
It's a little bit more focused.
Yeah, a little bit more focused. But yeah, what do you think of the whole? Just start the episode. Oh, it's 6 months later. Like it's weird in a time where we complained. Well, I know me and most people complained about like just jumping ahead, like moving too fast or whatever. But this show obviously. Is doing things a little bit differently from the outset. Where
it's doing the different thing to Game of Thrones' final seasons, where they would just time travel all over the place. Now they're just, like teleport all over the place. Now they're time traveling really quickly into the future.
Yeah, each episode
is 12 months later. The character development in this series is going to be very, very slow, or very, very fast, depending on how you look at it. I mean. Yeah, I guess, jump ahead 6 months, especially with the plot points that you want to hit this episode of the king wanting to remarry or people wanting the king to remarry. He would have been much more resistant if it had been 2 days after his wife had died. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think this is probably where the story is going to... I don't think we're going to get a massive time jump for next episode. But, it definitely won't feel like the next day. There's definitely going to be time jumps every single week, I think. Yeah, I assume so as well. It's interesting though, of course, like the show got greenlit for a second season based upon HBO obviously on the massive success of episode 1.
Yeah, episode 1 being the most viewed HBO thing all year. So
that is actually pretty bold, especially it's like not waiting to see if there's a massive drop off for week 2.
I guess they know. They would probably be like, look, the first episode was this massive.
Even if the drop off is 50%, we're still gonna. Yeah, it's still going to be worthwhile making.
I reckon they can. That's what I reckon. I reckon they can look at the numbers and go, like, worst case scenario, if this many people drop off, or I bet you they have stats though, where it's like a lot of viewers. This percentage of this many viewers are going to watch it week by week. Percentage of this many viewers probably drop off and never watch the show again. This much percentage probably jump off and come back and binge watch the rest of the season when it's done. You know what I mean? Like it's.
Yeah. To be clear, it's the biggest debut for a new show of all time on HBO. So if you don't get renewed off that, I don't know what you get renewed off.
Yeah, exactly. So we can't be time traveling too fast though, right? So there'll be bloody old people in the second season.
Maybe.
No one lives to be that old in Game of Thrones. Come on. They're all gonna die.
They don't. There's yeah. There's a certain character who's I feel is definitely on borrowed time.
Well, yeah, let's. Who's the villain in this? Who do you reckon comes across as the villain in this?
Well, obviously, what's his face? Coriolis? Valerian?
You reckon he's the villain?
At the of this episode.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he's playing the Game of Thrones, but double crossing him at the end of the episode definitely doesn't put him in great light. And then pretty much offering up your 8-year-old daughter is not a very heroic thing to do. You know what I mean? Even though we have a very clear villain towards the end of the episode that we get kind of a glimpse of. But, I think nobody is coming out looking fantastic outside of probably Rhaenyra.
See, I reckon
this episode.
Hand the King is the...
He is also like pretty high up the list of not look good
He's
guys.
a Weasley little cunt, that guy.
Who has been grooming his daughter to be...
Literally grooming his daughter and pushing her to get with the king so he can get here to... Obviously for himself. It's nothing to do with... He wants his family tied in. So... Yeah, well, at the end of the episode, old mate does go and yells and sits down with Daemon. Sure, but up until then, I don't feel like he did anything wrong. Now, again, this is that whole we can look at the offering up his however-year-old daughter, but in the world of Game of Thrones, in the world of House of... Okay, stop calling it that fucking show. In the world of House of the Dragon, right? This is normal. This is So I can't view that. Yeah, but I can't view that. As
the king was very, very hesitant.
Yeah, no, I can't view that.
I feel like that conversation that they have in the garden, where he's like, she gives the whole rehearsed lines about,
But I still think that's very normal.
But yeah, so I feel like a lot of people are not going to look at that.
I feel like that's, yes. Again, this is the whole look that ain't right, and whatever else. But I'm just saying within the lore and world of this show, I don't think that makes those people villains.
I think they're on the villainous side, but
I'm saying no. I'm saying it's old mate Hightower, villain.
I think they're both up there. So yeah. You wouldn't have called Littlefinger like the villain of Game of Thrones.
But he was. And then when he died, it was glorious. He was a big villain. He had more showtime than the true villains. As a villain.
That's fair.
Daemon? Not a villain.
So, he is also doing Weasley shit all episode, pretending that he's going to marry this woman, that she has a child, steals the egg of his that was meant for, their son that died in childbirth. Pretty messed up and cruel. And for what?
I see it.
Just a bit of a show of force.
No, it's a cry for attention, really, isn't it?
Maybe a little.
He's trying to get the attention of his brother. The first thing he asks when they all show up there is...
Send a raven, man.
First thing he asks when they all show up is, where's my brother? Where's the king? He wanted him there. That's all he did this for. But I feel like the most evident thing about Daemon as a character is both the fact that he just turns and walks away as soon as Rhaenyra shows up. Like, he would never actually hurt her. Plus, I don't think he would ever actually hurt the king. I think that's what that scene at the end is sort of supposed to show, where he tells old mate, he's shit talking to king, that I can say whatever I want about my brother, but you will not say that shit, sort of stuff. At the end of the day, he may have this, he may have his thoughts about his brother, and he may think that he should be king and all this other stuff. But I don't feel like he would ever actually, at least based on what I'm seeing here, I feel like it's just
not yet.
Well, at least based in this episode, I feel like that's what that's supposed to show, though. That he has it's like a family dynamic, but he would never actually hurt him.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. As soon as he is in privacy with his confidant, second wife, ? Mysaria.
Something.
Yeah, that sounds about right. He kind of is apologetic and down and kind of seeking her attention and that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely seems the needy type. Also, interesting accent choice for her. I believe the actress is British, and they're going, as a she's of Asian descent, I want to say. So, Sonoya Mizuno from Japanese born, and going a very African accent, I would say. Bold choice.
I thought they were trying to make her sound like she comes from the same isle that Pedro Pascal and whatever came from, maybe.
From Dawn? I don't.
No, that's how I
didn't
maybe
sound
I was hearing it wrong, maybe, but that's how I was hearing it, so I wasn't sure.
No.
What do you think of the big showdown with the dragons and everything? Do you think the CGI is like looking good in the show when we have two dragons flying around and stuff?
I mean, it looks all right. I didn't have any complaints. I think they used them sparingly and that kind of stuff. They didn't do anything outrageous with them. They just kind of fly down and there's not too much interaction with people, other than Rhaenyra riding it. But that's reasonably on the scale of 1 to 10, 1 being easy, 10 being impossible. It's on the lower end of the scale. Especially, it's pretty much what they were doing with Dany last season. So yeah, it looked fine. I mean, the shot of it going through the clouds, I think, would look pretty impressive. Before it popped up. So
when his came down and yelled at them all and told them to put their fucking swords down, I thought that was pretty intense.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be. It's true. Do you think that what's Olivia Cook's character again?
Allison.
Do you think Allison actually has feelings for the king, or she's just doing as her dad wishes?
I think she's doing as her dad wishes, as indicated by her kind of picking at her nails, much like she was at the tournament last episode. She's definitely nervous and kind of anxious. Yeah. Yeah.
So what's making it anxious though? Being
having to do this thing,
having to do it, or just being unable to do what her dad wants of her, sort of thing.
I think a bit of both. Wanting to please her father and then having to try and seduce, I guess, or impress this much older man. I think take this with a grain of salt, but I've seen a lot of Twitter hey, it's pretty clear that these two young women are into each other. But that's any time two people of the same sex maintain eye contact for an extended period, they're clearly gay. You know what I mean?
We're all gay deep down.
Yeah, it's a spectrum.
What was I going to say? What at the end, did you think, because Rhaenyra looks at her dad and gives a nod, do it. But that's obviously based on the conversation, the scene prior. Do you think he just it was a sudden last second change that he had, or?
I think he'd made that decision, but it wasn't. He hadn't told Rhaenyra that. He told her he was going to remarry. That was the exact conversation they had. I think she knew that he was scouting, I guess, in a terrible word.
Well, yeah,
the young girl.
She had seen him with the 12-year-old, the 2-year-old,
yes.
Whatever age the person was.
Lana, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think she might have assumed that was the direction, because that was the general consensus amongst everybody in the small council, that was the most
best choice.
The best choice
for the kingdom.
So yeah, kind of throw this curveball that, Otto Hightower had been kind of orchestrating this, apparently, these 6 months. And I guess it makes sense, because you saw them have their conversations and she'd been doing a good job kind of endearing herself to him. So, yeah.
Pretty good effort.
Taking interest, mending his stuff.
Yeah. With with a couple words, he pissed off his own daughter, sent away one of his closest confidants friends.
I don't know who she was more upset at, her father or Allison. You know what I mean?
Bit of both, I reckon.
Yeah.
Bit of both. Because she'd been lying to him. To her. Never mentioned they'd been talking, obviously, and all this sort of stuff. So I'm sure that's going to piss her off. Because she'd be like, why would he pick you? Unless you've been talking.
Doing something behind my back. Talking.
Mm.
Was it just talking? I don't know.
Yeah, talking with hard words. That's right. Anything else from this week's episode?
So we got a tease at like the big.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I was like,
rival. These.
These Crabman.
The crab feeder.
Crab feeder.
So what a way to open the episode, actually. On the beach.
Old mate getting
bunch
those
of boats.
wounds bitten in by crabs was pretty fucked up. I thought that was a dead body. And
no, so we all see just dead bodies. I'm like, these crabs are eating the dead bodies. It's kind of weird.
That's kind of gross, but
that's,
also like.
I mean, that's human nature. They eat dead stuff apparently, but then they're eating like a person who's still alive. And then it becomes apparent over the course of the episode that what they do is they hunt people, take them to this beach or whatever, nail them into, I don't know, pylons throughout the beach and let the crabs have at them.
Kind of weird.
So it's pretty messed up, Interesting reveal at the end of the episode.
Dude wearing a mask or whatever?
Yeah. It didn't appear to be a mask at first. I'm like, we having green dudes this season? That's weird.
Okay. Oh, that was a mask, right?
I think it was, yes.
Yeah.
I think I saw another screenshot of or like a preview for next week where it's pretty clearly a mask, but yeah.
Okay. Makes me wonder if this is something from the book or they've introduced something to help expand the story.
George is pretty involved in this series, so I mean,
even
if it wasn't from the book, it would be something he'd introduce.
But this is also why I'm like, surely we're not like we can't skip ahead too far now. Like we've
got to deal with these people.
Yeah, like if we skip ahead a year or so, then I'll be like, well, what the fuck are they? Like I thought the whole idea was you're trying to deal with these people. You know what I mean? So I feel like we've set a villain for at least the next couple episodes to deal with, right?
Yeah. Well, it's pretty clear that they're positioning Daemon to like fight them off and like kind of.
So he's dragging down there and just burn them all.
Endearing himself to more people, I guess.
Mm. Well, if he does
seeing
do
him
that,
in Dragonstone. That was the other thing. Like that room that obviously we saw in season 8. The dragon thing along the wall. I'm like, oh, Danny's out there.
Yeah.
Old mate's out there. Old mate was in there.
For the what? Oh no, they were in there for like 2 seasons, weren't they? The room, that room. No,
maybe.
Yeah.
Did they come in season 7? I can't remember.
Oh, fuck! I forgot what I was going to say now. Don't worry, can't remember. Can't be that important.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
The other thing is they got the night dude from last episode. He's part of the King's Guard.
Oh right, yeah.
The only person in that entire crew who's actually seen combat.
Yep. Oh, this is Sir Knight up this. He once caught a burglar. Great job.
It's like, cool, you're a police officer.
Thank you for your service to the crown. Move on.
Yeah.
This is pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. Council this week is over. Join us next week for another episode of South of the King's Landing. Until then, you can check out all of our podcasts on explosionhour.com, including Lord of the Rings Extended. That kicks off this week. Holy moly. Of course, we'll be talking about more fantasy land stuff over there. On your Mothercast. Currently talking about She-Hulk. And what do you want to watch? We're here to talk about, me and Ash talk about all things movie, TV, and media that we're not talking about between the million of podcasts that we do to talk about.
Like the Lord of the Rings Extended.
Like I just said that Lord of the Rings Extended. Middle of podcast coming out.
Wasn't listening.
He was not listening at all. We guys, the show. We're great podcasters. We love listening to each other. That's why we do them all the time. Thank you very much for joining us. See you next week. Goodbye.